everyone, welcome back to Dimitra's Dishes. So today I'm going to teach you how to make kotopita, which translates to chicken pie, and it's going to be a Greek style chicken pie. It's going to be the best chicken pie that you've ever had. Simple to make, hearty, and delicious. Let's go over the ingredients first on how we're going to roast the chicken, and then we're going to get started. So we're going to need a whole chicken, some salt, pepper, a little bit of olive oil, some dried oregano, crushed red pepper flakes if you like it spicy like I do, and some cumin powder. Alright, so we begin by putting a little bit of olive oil on our chicken. Your oven has to be preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you season with your favorite seasonings. I like to use salt and pepper and all these seasonings, but use whatever you like. Put salt, pepper, a little bit of oregano, some cumin powder, and crushed red pepper flakes. And I'm going to season the other side exactly the same way. So I'm going to cook it breast side down just because that's where most of the meat is. So I'm going to cover it with foil. My oven is preheated at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to cook in the oven for 40 minutes covered. Then I'm going to uncover it and let it cook for 40 minutes uncovered at the same temperature until the chicken is completely done. Now I'm using turkey and I'm not using turkey. So now I'm using chicken and I'm making it myself. But if you have leftover chicken, like grilled chicken or any kind of chicken from the supermarket, maybe you bought a rotisserie chicken or you have leftover turkey, whatever you have, you can use that. But it tastes so delicious when you make it from scratch. So I'm going to pop it in and I'll show you, and then we'll move on to the next step. So it took 1 hour and 20 minutes for my chicken to cook. I took it out and I'm going to let it cool because once it cools, we're going to shred it and add it to our filling. So for the filling, you're going to need 1 onion, and I've chopped it up just medium-sized pieces. And I've cooked it about 15 minutes with 2 pieces of garlic. Like I said, like if you follow me before on my other videos, instead of mincing up the garlic, I found that if you put it whole in at the beginning of cooking with your onions, then it gets a very nice roasted flavor, and it's very easy to just mash it up. You don't have to chop it up or mince it. So that's ready. While that's cooking and it's almost done, I have 2 bell peppers over here. You can use green, red, yellow, whichever ones you want. I have an orange one and a red one, and I'm just going to cut these up. I'm going to chop them up and add them to my frying pan. Now if you wanted to, you could also chop up some mushrooms at this point, maybe 5 or 6 little portobello mushrooms, small ones, and put them in here. Those are going to add a little more hearty texture, but I'm going to leave it just like this because I love the way this combination of the peppers and the onions and the chicken goes. I'm going to cook this down for about 5 more minutes until the peppers soften a bit and release their juices, and then in the meantime I'm going to shred up my chicken, and then we're going to move on to the next step, which is going to be making the bechamel sauce. So once the peppers are done, you can season them with a little bit of salt. You could actually season them with salt before, while you were cooking them. It actually helps them cook faster and help release their juices. I've already shredded and cut my chicken and put it in this big bowl right here. I separated the bones, and I like to save the bones to make like a chicken bone broth or a chicken stock with it. It tastes, why throw them away when you could use it to make something more delicious and heartwarming. So now I'm going to add my bell peppers and my onions and my garlic. And then I'm also going to use some of this reserved pan juices from the chicken that came from roasting. I'm just going to use a little bit of it. And it's going to keep the chicken nice and moist. Maybe about half. If it's still a little bit on the dry side and you can taste it, you can add all the rest. It just depends on how much pan juices you have. I had, it seems about 3/4 of a cup to a cup of it in there. So I put about half a cup in here. Okay, so you want to make sure that you mix it really well so all the flavors combine. And then at this point, you can take a piece. It's nice to taste maybe the breast piece because that one stays a little bit more dry. Taste it and see if it needs more of the pan juices or some more salt and pepper. Just a little bit more salt. Be careful not to add too much salt because we're also going to make a bechamel sauce and add cheeses to this, which is the next step. I'm going to go ahead and add all the rest of these pan juices just because it's gonna add so much flavor. It's completely up to you. If you're using store-bought rotisserie chicken, just don't worry about it. It'll be flavorful enough with the bechamel sauce that we're gonna make next. So just like that, this chicken combination, this roasted chicken with onions and bell peppers and garlic, is just like a delicious recipe that you should have on hand because you can use it to put it on top of salads, on top of rice, or make the most delicious sandwiches. But we're gonna take it up to the next level by making a delicious bechamel sauce that's gonna make it creamy and cheesy and totally delicious. But before we do that, I'm just gonna season it just a little more with some herbs. Now, I have over here some fresh thyme. You can use fresh thyme, you can use oregano, or even rosemary in this. I'm just gonna use some thyme and just sprinkle it on top like that, just a little bit. Maybe like if you were measuring, I would say about a teaspoon or so of it. It just smells so delicious, and thyme and poultry just go so good together. If you want to chop it up, go ahead, but I'm not going to do it because it's already like really, really small. So I'm just going to mix that up, and then we're going to go over the ingredients to make our bechamel sauce. So with bechamel, you always need olive oil, flour, a little bit of nutmeg. I have ground nutmeg, some whole milk. I have some eggs over here. I'm using 2 whole eggs, and then lots of cheese. I have feta cheese. The Doni feta is my absolute favorite. And honestly, this calls for about a cup, and all the measurements are going to be on the website. But I always put extra cheese, so it's completely up to you. I have feta cheese that I've crumbled. I have shredded parmesan, and then I have some shredded gouda. You can use gouda, you can use mozzarella, whatever shredded cheese you like. But try to shred it yourself because then it melts really nicely. So I'm going to add my olive oil in here and my flour, and we're going to make a roux, which is going to thicken it. So we're going to bring this to a boil and then cook it until the flour becomes nice and toasted. Okay, so once the flour cooks off, then we're going to add our milk, a little bit of salt, not too much salt because we're going to have lots of cheese in this, and cheese is really salty, lots and lots of black pepper, and a pinch of nutmeg, about a 1/4 teaspoon or so. And we're going to mix this really well and let it cook until it thickens. So as soon as the milk begins to heat up, you're going to see that it's going to thicken, and you don't want to take this too far. We're just going to thicken it until it coats the back of a spoon. So you just want to make sure that if you draw a line down the center, the two don't come together, the two sides, and that's how you know it's ready. Now we're going to turn this off the heat, and we're going to add our eggs. So you just want to beat your eggs a bit and break them up, and then we're going to add some of this hot mixture into our eggs so that way we can raise their temperature a bit so that way they don't scramble when they go back in. And that's it. Once they're all mixed, we're going to add them to our cream mixture and then whisk it all together, and then we're ready to put everything together in our filling. Okay, so now we're going to add our cream sauce, our delicious, luscious cream sauce to our chicken mixture and the cheeses. And I'm just going to mix it all up. So our chicken mixture is really nice and creamy and moist and ready. The only thing that I'm going to add, you don't have to, but you know me, and I'm going to add some crushed red pepper flakes for a little kick, a little bit of heat. We got the woodsy flavor from the thyme, the sweetness from the peppers and onions, and a little heat from the red pepper. I'm going to set it aside because now we're going to get our phyllo ready. So finally, the last thing you need is a pound of phyllo dough. And it's sold in the in the freezer section of your supermarket. I melted some butter because I feel like butter adds so much flavor to phyllo. And then I have some sesame seeds to decorate on top. You need a big baking tray, and you're going to open up the phyllo, and we're just going to spread it out, and I'll show you how I do it. It's really simple. So before we start, we're just going to butter up the bottom and the sides, just a little bit. So we're going to separate it in half because half is going to be for the bottom and the other half will be for the top. So a little less than half for the top because you need more for the bottom. I would say about this much. I'm going to set this aside. And when you're working with phyllo, you want to make sure that you don't step away and start doing something else, because it doesn't have any fat in it and it'll dry out and start to crumble on you, and it'll be really difficult to work with. So you want to take 3 sheets at a time. 3 or 4 sheets, it just depends on how many you have. And you want to make one of the layers halfway in the tray and halfway out to the side like that. And always just drizzle a little bit of butter as you go. And then take 3 more layers, and we're going to move clockwise. And that's going to go and cover the bottom and kind of come out like that a little bit. And you can definitely use a half sheet aluminum baking tray, like a cookie tray, that would work too. Then we're gonna do the other side, like the 9 o'clock side if you were looking at a clock. And then the back side, the 12 o'clock side. So if you were starting, you start with 3 o'clock, then you go down to 6 o'clock, and then you go to 9 o'clock, and then 12 o'clock. And whatever you have left, you can just put down there on the bottom. Phyllo is very forgiving when you're making these pies. They're supposed to be rustic, and you don't have to be perfect about it. Now, depending on whatever tray you're using, will determine how thick your pie is going to be. This is going to be like on the medium side. If you're using a bigger tray, like a half sheet aluminum baking tray, like you would bake like cookies or half sheet cakes on, it's going to be a little thinner. Both ways are good. I've also made this in a 10-inch round pie plate, and then you get really, really rich slices. Personally, I prefer a little bit thinner slices because this is already rich, and that's how they sell the slices in Greece. They're a little bit on the thinner side. So now we're going to fold the sheets over to cover the filling and drizzle butter as we go, just like so. You see how it already starts to dry up and kind of start to break on you? So the longer it's exposed to air, the faster it's going to dry out. And that's fine, because once you pour butter on it, it'll be fine. But once it's in the tray, you don't really have much to worry about. But if you're working with dried up phyllo dough and you're trying to get it in the pan, it's going to get really frustrating. So now we're just going to put all the rest on top, and we're just going to tuck them in. Like so. It's very easy. We're drizzling butter as we're going. So I would take like 2 sheets at a time and then drizzle butter in between, so it could be super, super flavorful. Just like that. And then we're putting the final few sheets. We're going to tuck them in. So now, before we drizzle all the rest of the butter on top, we're going to cut this down the center at the half point part, and then we're going to cut halfway on one side so we can get 4 rows, and halfway on the other side. You can go all the way down to the filling, but no need to go all the way down to the bottom. Then we're going to turn it, and we're going to cut into 3 portions down the other side, so you're going to get 12 really nice sized portions. And then we're just going to drizzle all the rest of this butter, the melted creamy butter, all over the rest of our pie. And then finally, we're just going to garnish with some sesame seeds. So now my oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to pop this in uncovered just the way it is for between 45 minutes to an hour. You're going to know when it's ready, when it's going to be beautiful and golden brown on top, and inside is going to be really nice and bubbly. So once it's ready, you want to take it out and you want to let it rest for a good 15 to 20 minutes so the filling can settle and set, and it'll be very easy to slice. My kotopita took a little over an hour, maybe about an hour and 15 minutes to cook. When it comes out, you want to be really nice. You want it to look like this, really nice and golden, so it could be very, very crisp. And then you want to take it out and leave it on the side for at least 15 minutes. I would even say go up to 30 minutes so it can cool, and the filling, because it's so rich and creamy, you want it to set. Otherwise, when you go to slice pieces and serve it, it can fall apart, and it's going to be much nicer if it stays together. And then you want to go in with a knife, a nice serrated knife, once it cools, and just slice down all the areas where you cut before. And can you hear how really nice and crispy it is? That is the sound that you want to hear. Very easy to make, super delicious. You can switch up the vegetables and put your favorite vegetables in here. Let me know in the comment section down below how you would make it or how you are going to make it. Let me take out a slice and hopefully it's going to stay together so I can show you what it looks like. Look at that. Just look. Crispy on the edges, juicy. I cannot wait to taste that. You have the bell pepper, the layers of phyllo. You see how juicy that filling is? It's kind of like a chicken pot pie, which is essentially what this is, only a little bit thicker and Greek style. So let's take a bite and taste this. All of the flavors came together so nicely to create this beautiful, delicious, show-stopping dish. I'm going to put the link for the recipe in the description box down below. It's going to take you to the website www.dimitrasdishes.com. I have this recipe and so many more. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I cannot wait to eat this. Let me know what different ingredients you used in yours and what you want to learn how to make next. Thank you for spending time with me today, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.